Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Action Football Sundays, and we have something a little bit unusual for you. So you say that you want to play with the 1985 Chicago Bears, eh? Well, you might discover that it's a little bit tricky because there's no button in the game that lets you choose the 4-6 defense. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about ways that we can make the 4-6 defense work in game, even if the button's not there. Now, I've got this set up a little bit unusually for you here because instead of playing against the computer like I normally would, for the purposes of demonstration here on this video, we're going to go with me coaching both teams, both the offense and the defense, and sort of see what we can show. So I've chosen the New York Giants here, who had a good team in 1985. And let's see what we can do. So we're going to do something that's pretty simple here with the Giants. We're going to make sure that we run with split backs here so we can show you what this defense is like. We're going to take Morris here, and I mean, it doesn't really matter what we choose. We'll choose an off-tackle run to the left. Now, for Chicago, when we want to set up this defense, after scouring the internet and looking at what all the options are, this is kind of what I've come up with. So what people recommend doing is one of two things. You can either play with so you want to have blitzers set on auto blitz. Here in coverage, you can either play with a tight man or with a short zone. You want to try to make as much pressure as you possibly can on the offense when you're controlling the Bears on defense. And the reason why is because that's exactly what they would do in 1985. You want auto blitzing on because you don't want to have to be over here clicking on like, we want this guy to blitz, that guy to blitz, or whatever. Instead, you want the computer to take care of that so that you don't have to click on everybody. I think of this less as, oh, we're going to have the computer figure this out, and more in terms of, well, we probably want, Singletary there in the defense to make some of these calls, make some of these decisions for us, and to call the plays. He sees it coming up to the line rather than having us have it to screw around with this stuff. Make sure that you're in the 4-3 basic when you look at how and you can see in my blog post, so I've set this up. When you look at the diagram of how the 4-6 actually works, you will see there are 4 people here. You will notice, of course, that there's really not much of an option here for you to, I guess you could play around with a few things, but there's not much of an option that you have here to stack all these linebackers on one side like they would in real life, nor is there necessarily much of an option to make sure that you actually have 8 men in the box other than playing tight. And so we'd recommend playing tight. I also recommend, especially if you're thinking about a potential run, having Dorson in run support. When you look on the forums, you'll see people who talk about having Fennec in run support instead. I'm actually not 100% sure how to change that. I assume this would mean changing some of the man matchups or doing something like that in the lineup itself. You can figure that out as you want and as much as you like. But the reason why is because you're going to want somebody else to help you with that run. And even though we're going to be blitzing a bunch of people here, we're going to play run defense. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I can outsmart myself anyway. And you can see the defense is just swarming all over everybody here, right over at the point of attack. That's the way that the 4-6 defense works. It's the sort of defense that almost lets you play offense from the defensive perspective. So let's see what we can do. Let's see what happens if we try to pass over it, right? So we're going to have Sims here pass to Lionel Manuel. We're going to have him throw maybe, maybe a medium out pass. And so as the Bears, we don't know that the pass is coming, let's say. So we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to play tight man. We're going to not keep Dorson in run support. We could if we wanted to. We won't keep him in run support this time, and we'll just play a basic defense, and let's see how it works. So New York has the ability to audible because Chicago is always showing blitz. You're going to have to get used to that. It's powerful anyway, and you can see that, this time they were able to throw over the top of them. But you can see all of the pressure coming at the quarterback right there from that point of attack. It is very possible, though, to have some success throwing against this defense when you try things like that. Another thing you can do if you are playing against the 85 Bears, let's say you've got a buddy who's playing with the team, you're playing online or something like that. Another thing you can do to sort of make it so that this defense doesn't quite have the same bite in addition to trying to throw over the top of it, is you can come up with a wacky formation, something like this, a more modern formation. You wouldn't see this so much in 1985, but in doing so, you can sort of push the defense into a position in which it's not able necessarily to run that 4-6. We'll play around with that a little bit here and see what happens. Let's say we're going to throw here to Johnson. We're going to throw a little short hitch pass and see if we can get the pass off before the defense is able to get around to us. Now, for the Bears, you have a problem. As you can see, the game is not really able to come up with much for us. We can run maybe a nickel, but it'll tell us right here that we don't have enough defensive backs lined up to match with the offense. And you can see kind of the weird formation we have to be in. We'll run a dime so we can still have 4 guys here, but it's going to be hard if we actually want to blitz anybody. That's going to take a lot of the sting and a lot of the bite out of this defense. To compensate for that, instead of running man, let's run it in the short zone here. We're not going to worry about Dorson and run support because we're pretty sure they're not going to run. We're going to play pass instead. Let's see what happens. And so Sims goes back and is able to throw it up and forward over the defense very quickly, but unfortunately incomplete. You can see here, if we watch the replay of that, you can see that Chicago was not really able to blitz. I guess they did have, who is this? They had one linebacker come up. That was Singletary who came up in the blitz, but Chicago was not able to risk any other people going forward in that blitz because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 wideouts. And if you watch again, this tight end here is actually wide open. So you can see, right, how this works and how it's possible to defeat the Chicago Bears with their own game. In fact, if you go back and you watch that 85 Dolphins-Bears game, what you will notice is that the Dolphins are able to throw it to the tight end, playing in a much more passing, much more aggressive formation, and using that tight end then forces somebody on this defense to cover the tight end, which kind of puts Chicago sort of out of whack. So now let's do something also extreme. We'll do sort of a version of the split back, but with 3 wide receivers instead of with a tight end, and see what happens here. And we will pass again, and we'll throw a medium slant pass that will give a little bit more chance for the defense to get downfield. Now, from Chicago's point of view, what I guess we technically should be doing is we should be playing a nickel, but instead let's do this. We're going to play actually a short zone, and we're going to ignore the fact that we're short defensive backs. We're just going to play sort of this 4-6 anyway, and we'll run pass defense and see what happens, see who wins. And as you can see, New York was able to throw the ball right on top of the defense anyway, but they had to hold to be able to do it, holding on the offense. Let's do something similar again. So we'll do that same formation, and we'll throw it to a different receiver. Let's go here for a medium fly pass, and we're going to do the exact same thing here on defense and see if that was a fluke or not, and see what happens if we try that once again. Once again, New York has the option to call an audible. What they're seeing here is a tight defensive setup, but they're not seeing any potential blitz coming. And get used to this. One of the nice things about this defense is that you can force the computer or your friend or whoever to make kind of a really foolish audible decision. So you can see here what happened this time around looks a lot more like the 4-3 defense. Nobody's blitzing. Nobody's open, though. And despite the fact that we technically didn't have enough players playing in the defensive role, we still weren't able to find anybody open. Now, the other thing that you can do in theory to beat this is you can throw little short passes out, again, to, like, say, the tight end. But let's see if we can stop that. So we'll play tight man this time with 1 zone defensive back. We will not look for run support. We will do the auto blitz, and we'll play pass. Let's just see what happens, see if they can find the tight end. And unfortunately, they're not able to find the tight end, and there's another sack on the play. And again, this looks a lot more like the 85 Bears, who have now forced New York to go all the way back to the original line of scrimmage. As you can see here, looking back on this, the tight end is covered all the way. And the wide receivers are also covered, and Chicago is able to get the sack here, despite the fact that they're not blitzing anybody. And sort of the type of intimidation that comes with this kind of defense. And so, as we've seen here with this very quick set of plays, there are a lot of different things you can do here on Action PC Football when you're playing with the 85 Bears. Now, if you're curious, you can actually play with the same defensive strategy, even if you're not playing with like the 85 Bears or the 91 Eagles. You could play with a team from any era and have something that kind of resembles the 4-6 defense. You would probably have to order your blitzers around yourself, though, and you would have to be careful that you're not leaving huge gaping holes in your defense in doing so. But it is theoretically possible to try this out with teams that don't quite have that personnel to make it work. And the other thing that's interesting here, just as I showed you, is that there are technically ways to beat the defense. If you're up against this defense and you really want to win the game and you don't care about like accuracy, realism, or any of that junk, or you're playing with a modern team against the 85 Bears, look for a more modern, wide, West Coast type offense to force the Bears away from blitzing, 2, 3, or even 4 guys at random, and instead force them to actually have to play backwards on defense and to look for a potential pass coming. You're not necessarily going to win every single time, but your chances of winning are much higher if you can stop the Chicago Bears from blitzing. And there you have it. There's the 4-6 defense, how it works in action PC football, and some ideas for how to stop it. If you like that, as always, hit the like button, subscribe. We have more of these. We're going to have one of these strategy videos every Wednesday evening, and then Sunday afternoons. Join us as we continue to have one game every single Sunday afternoon, and I will see you on Sunday for another Action Sunday Football. Bye.